Our goal is that by the end of this conversation, you'll understand the true power of getting really clear about what you want in life. Have tools then to prioritize those things and to unleash the full power of your subconscious to support you in getting there. I'm speaking to Vered Kogan, a leading behavior and mindset expert who specializes in helping people release the emotional and mental barriers to reaching their full potential. Welcome to Happiness Adventure. I'm Lisa, and together we'll explore ways to cultivate real joy in our lives. Today we're talking about the power of knowing what we want and actually taking the time to stop and figure that out. For starters, why is it important to know what we want?
It's important because if we don't know what we want, how will we ever know that we got it?
Yeah.
Right? Imagine a boat that's going off to some destination. If we don't know exactly what that destination is, right, that boat could just be floating around, right, or just staying in the dock and never really reaching the destination. So it's about becoming very conscious in a very specific way about what it is that we want, what will truly make us alive, make us feel good, right? Will just warm our heart.
Yeah.
And then being very deliberate about how will we get there, and of course following through.
And you say it's important to know what the evidence will be that we've gotten where we think we want to go. Can you tease that out a little bit for us?
Of course. So most people create, like let's say if I wanted to be healthier, and I say to myself, okay, I want to be healthier. Maybe I want to lose a couple pounds, maybe I want to eat healthier, but I might not be very specific. So I might be telling my very powerful unconscious mind, which is this part of our mind that's really driving all of our learning, all of our behavior, and ultimately all of our results.
Yeah. We
might be telling ourselves, okay, we want to get healthier, but we don't really know specifically what that means. So if I lose 1 pound or 1 ounce, am I healthier? If I eat 1 salad, am I healthier? Right? What will that mean? So we've got to be really specific so that we know when we've got it, because that's going to drive our actions. If I'm very specific and I know that for me healthier means, I'm just making this up, but let's say I'm going to eat a salad every day, I'm going to exercise for minimum 30 minutes a day, and maybe meditate. Let's say that's a part of my ritual, what I would want to be my ideal ritual.
Yeah.
Then I know, because that's very specific, that if I'm only working out 20 minutes a day, and if I'm not eating a salad that day for whatever reason, that I haven't gotten it. And then my mind can help me with a lot of self-love to redirect, to change course, to pivot, and maybe eat an extra salad the next day or whatever it is, but to do what we can to stay aligned. Because the whole purpose, I believe, of life is to feel good. And I believe that feeling good comes from feeling aligned. So knowing what we want, what will truly make us happy, and then aligning all of our actions, all of our thoughts, all of our feelings with that in a very deliberate, conscious way, so that we can achieve what we want in exactly the way that we want it.
For those who are overwhelmed at the prospect of trying to figure out what it is they want, where do you recommend that they begin?
Really overwhelm comes from, again, this powerful unconscious mind. And when I say that, what I mean is that we have a conscious mind, things that we're conscious of at any moment in time. Like right now, I'm conscious of the fact that you're smiling at me, that I'm here with you in this beautiful room. And I might not be conscious of the way that I'm digesting my lunch or my breathing, or maybe of the cars outside that are driving by. So there are things I'm conscious of and things that I'm unconscious of. And really that unconscious mind is the more powerful part of us, because it's literally driving over 95% of everything that we think, feel, and do.
Wow, that's staggering.
It is staggering. So how does it relate to the overwhelm? The overwhelm comes from our unconscious mind not knowing what to focus on, because we've told it, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want that, and it's going, okay, I want to help you, please let me help you, but what do you want first? What's the priority? I need to know what's most important to you. Because if I'm telling myself, for example, that I want to get healthier and work out 30 minutes a day, and there's another part of me that says, hey, but I want to have enough time for my children, for my husband, for my home, for myself, right? And somehow that's conflicting because I only have so many hours in a day, or at least that's my perception. Then my unconscious mind is getting mixed instructions. On the other hand, it's saying do that, but on the other hand, I'm saying, but I can't because of all these other things
Mm-hmm.
that are also important to me. So if I'm not consciously clear about what's the priority, I'm going to be like one step here, one step there, one step here, one step there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to feel overwhelmed because there are so many directions, so many things to focus on
Mm-hmm.
that I'm ultimately stuck exactly where I am.
Yeah.
So when we get very clear about what is most important to us, what we value the most in those particular areas of our life, whether it's health or family or relationships or spirituality or work, whatever those contexts might be, then we can say, okay, if this is what's most important to me, how can I align
Mm-hmm.
everything that I'm thinking, feeling, and doing with that? Because the reality is when our top values are honored by ourselves in terms of our behavior and also honored by other people, right, when they don't step over boundaries that we've set for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
then we are fulfilled. Then we are happy, regardless of whether we actually achieve the physical goal, whether we go on the vacation or we actually lose the weight, we're still fulfilled if we honor our values. So values are really important. And I would say that is the first step, is to ask ourselves, what is most important to me
Mm-hmm.
in this area of my life? Let's
Yeah.
say if I, as a parent, if I want to become an even better parent, then I would ask myself, what's important to me about parenting? And I would just, take an empty piece of paper and I would just write out everything that's important to me. So maybe connection, maybe legacy, maybe fun, maybe, all of those things that are important to me. And then I would say, okay, out of all of these things, what's most important, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, that's an unconscious process. So some of us might sit for a whole day and not really know, but really, we have our unconscious mind already has put it into a hierarchy. We just need to connect with it. We need to focus in on our heart and say, okay, what's most important? And that word or that phrase will just jump off the page,
Mm-hmm.
right? What's the one thing I cannot live without? And I'll put a little number 1 next to that. And then I ask myself, what's next? What's most important after that? And I'll put a little number 2, and then number 3, 4, 5, 6. And so I have this hierarchy. And whatever's at the top
Mm-hmm.
is the priority for me to honor. Because when I honor those, I will feel fulfilled. I will be aligned with my true inner self, the core of my being.
So you start with the values list ranked, and then how do you move from that to what you want to happen?
Exactly. So first of all, remember it's also contextual, so it would be in a particular context. So let's say if I'm feeling unfulfilled in my work life for whatever reason. Many of the people I work with are in transition, or they want to change careers or something, or they want to start a business or something like that. They don't yet know what it is or how to get there, but there is a reason that they're wanting the change. There's a feeling that they're searching for.
Mm-hmm.
So they ask themselves, what is most important to me in the context of my work, job, profession? And they'll come up with a list. Sometimes it's helpful to have a buddy or a friend elicit that, so that we don't have to write down, we can just speak it, and somebody writes down all the words, and then we have that person help us, or we help ourselves to get it into a hierarchy. Now once we have that hierarchy, then we say, okay, if this is what's most important to me, for example, in the context of my career or business,
Mm-hmm.
what are some options that align with that? It's almost like if I were, let's say, going to buy a house,
Mm-hmm.
right? I imagine you either own a home or you rent a home. And I imagine that when you were deciding which home to live in, that you had a certain criteria list.
Right.
Yes?
Yes.
Things you've got to have.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I don't know, I'm just making this up, maybe granite countertops or cul-de-sac or, I don't know, something like that. And you also had a list of nice to haves.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you've got to have 4 bedrooms, but it would be nice to have 5 in case you had some guests or something like that. So we have these lists, right, which stem from our values.
Mm-hmm.
And then we say, okay, right, if that's my list, for example, of buying or renting a home,
Mm-hmm.
right, I'm not going to go out and look at all of the houses on the MLS, right? That would
Right.
take forever and drain my energy,
Yeah.
right? So what do? We screen. We say, okay, of all the houses in this area, right, the area that I want to be in, which
Mhm.
ones meet these criteria,
Mhm.
right? We filter out some stuff, and then we only explore those things that are most important to us, right? That
Mhm.
align with what is truly important to us. So when we have that list of values, of prioritized values, the next step is to say, okay, what does this value mean to me? Because what it means to me might not be what it means to you.
Right.
Right? What does it mean to me? And then the next question, which is the ultra important question here, is what will it take for this value to be honored?
Mm.
Right? How will I know that this value is honored? So for example, if let's say in the context of parenting, and I value connection, what does connection mean to me? Well, in the context of parenting, connection, and I'm doing this, kind of making this up as we speak, connection means quality conversation so that my children can feel open and honest to share things with me. Okay, great. So if that's what that means to me, right, then what would it take for me to know that I've got it? Right? What would it take? Well, it would take for me to maybe be open with them about things that are coming up in my world. Of course, age appropriate. And what would it take? It would mean having quality time together, maybe at a time when they're more relaxed. It would take, right, going out of my way, maybe having some one-on-one dates with them and those kinds of things, right? So then my mind is already giving me ideas about how I can get there.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily have to know the how, right? The how we're going to build the business or the how we're going to change our career or our health or whatever it is. We just need to connect with what's most important to us, what it means, and how will we know that we got it. Our brain will fill in all the gaps. It will give us all the ideas. So I'll wake up the next day and I'll be like, oh, you know what? I can sing to and this is a true story, right? Recently when I was kind of thinking about this, is I thought, okay, I can, spend some time with my youngest, my 12-year-old, and sing to her at night. And so when it came time for evening routine, right, rather than just kind of staying in front of the TV and with my husband, I would actually pause and I went to her room and kind of said, how's it going? And spending that quality time with her. But you know what? If I hadn't done that work of being conscious about connection, I would not have had that idea.
Yeah. How does knowing what we want help us unleash the power of our subconscious?
Brilliant. Because when we know what we want, we're giving that instruction to our subconscious mind that will help us to achieve it. So let me explain the science of that a little bit. So there is this amazing part of your mind and all of our minds called the reticular activating system.
Okay.
And this part of your mind gets activated. It gets triggered whenever you deem something to be relevant and important. So let's say you have a specific goal, and it's not just a goal, it's a goal that's meaningful to you, that's aligned with your values, right? So it's from the heart.
Okay.
So when you set that goal, this part of your mind becomes activated. It starts to help you to become incredibly acutely aware of everything in your world that aligns with that. So let me share an example. So have you ever set a goal to buy a particular kind of car? Yes, and have you noticed that car everywhere on the road?
Everywhere, all of a sudden.
Exactly. So was it not there the day before, right? Of course those cars were there.
Yeah.
You just were deleting that because there are anywhere from around 2 to 11 million bits of data per second. That's right, all around us, and also what's going on in our body. But our conscious mind, that little kind of top part of the iceberg, if you imagine an iceberg with a giant part under the water, just a little tip going out. The conscious mind can only be aware of 40 bits per second. So Lisa, think about that. 2 to 11 million, 40. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
It tells you that you are deleting a whole bunch of stuff, you're distorting reality, you're generalizing things, you're coming up with your little story of reality, which is not the actual reality, it's just your perception based on your beliefs and all of those subconscious programs. And of course also your decisions, what's important to you. So when you set a goal to buy a particular kind of car, you say to your subconscious mind, this powerful part of your mind that can access all of your memories, everything that you're not even conscious of, to say, this is important to me, it's relevant, it's important to me, right? It aligns with my values. And so that part of your mind all of a sudden says, okay, Lisa says this is important, let's start looking for it. And then all of a sudden you start to notice it, and all of a sudden people start speaking about it, and you happen to see it everywhere, and right, all those synchronicities. Is it magic? No, it's your brain in action, because you were very deliberate and conscious about what's important to you and about what you want, and it will help you to get the ideas and all of the things in the world that will help you align with that. So all of a sudden you get an idea, all of a sudden there's the phone call, all of a sudden, right, all the synchronicities happen. It's because you were deliberate in creating that, and deliberate not just from the head. We can all write goals, right? It's not like affirmations. Yes, I am wealthy, I am strong, I am thin, I am blah blah blah. That is not worth anything if we don't involve the heart, if we don't involve our emotions, which is where the subconscious mind comes in, because the subconscious mind speaks to you through your emotions, through your body and through your emotions. So this is not woo-woo at all in the sense that it's science. So I am a certified instructor with something called the Heart Math Institute. Just like it sounds, heart and then math, just like the subject at school, math.
Yeah.
And if your viewers want to go on heartmath.org, they can access all of the research. But essentially, this is an institution that since, my goodness, at least 30 years, has been learning about the connection between our heart and our brain. And by the way, the heart is a brain. There's a neural network around the heart. So I'm going to say it more specifically, the heart brain and the head brain. So we think we make our decisions from here. We're actually not, Lisa. We're actually making most of our decisions from our heart.
Wow.
Right? Our values, what we talked about, right, what's important to us, dictate everything that we do. So if I looked at your bank statement or Visa statement or whatever, credit card statement, and I looked at your schedule and I see how you spend your money, how you spend your time, I could probably see that kindness is one of your values, right? Clearly why we're doing this is because kindness is one of your values and because you want to express that. So what I'm saying here is that when we align our decisions from the heart in terms of what we value most, right? When we align our decisions with our values, then we're behaving from here and not from here. Because whenever there is a battle between logic and emotion always wins. That's why a lot of us know all the right answers, right? We can find out how to go on a diet, how to get the relationship, all that stuff. But if we're not doing it consistently, then it's because there's a misalignment, because we consciously want it, but on an unconscious level, we either don't believe that we can, or we don't believe that it's truly beneficial to us. It's kind of mixed energy, mixed instructions, what we talked about earlier. So the Heart Math Institute studies this communication between the head brain and the heart brain. And what they found out is that the optimal state of performance, which we all want to be in, you know, that state where we're like so focused, we're in the zone and we're getting those ideas and things are just easy, right? We do all the work, we do all the stuff we need to do, but it doesn't feel like work. We enjoy it, we feel light, we feel free, we're choosing to do it.
The flow state?
That's right, that flow state, which is also, by the way, the optimal state of health. It's when your nervous systems, and I say nervous systems because again there are multiple brains, right? At least two, or there's also the enteric system, there's the gut brain, okay? But your nervous systems, your immune system, your hormonal system, all of those are synchronized, like a rowing boat, right?
Yeah.
You ever seen rowers? Yeah, that's right. There's somebody at the front and they say what they say and everybody else kind of puts the oars in the water at the same time, very coherent, very synchronized.
Yes.
That's that state that we want to be in, that our head brain and our heart brain, right, logic and emotion are talking, right? We set a conscious goal and we believe, we get into the state of doing all the work, like the things you brought up, like visualization, like loving ourselves consciously, all of those things that we get into that coherence. And when that happens, Lisa, not only do we feel really good, but we also are sending a very coherent signal from our heart to our brain up something called the autonomic nervous system. You don't even really have to know what that means. All it means is that there is a very smooth heart rate variability. That's how we measure it, coming up to our head brain. And that allows our heart to communicate with our head, which in other words is saying our subconscious mind to communicate with our conscious mind. And there's that integration happening, and boom, we're motivated. We've got the ideas. We don't have to like effort so much. We do it because it feels good. Like I imagine you're doing this, not because you have to, but because it feels really good.
Yeah.
Because it's aligned with your values. So that's how we know. It starts with values. What's important to me in this context of my life? Putting it into a hierarchy. What does each of these values mean? How will I know when I've got it, when this value is honored?
Yeah.
And then going into our heart and saying, okay, how can these actions, what I need to do, how do they feel inside my body? And anytime a decision feels right, it is the right decision. And when it doesn't feel right, there's a reason for that. It's out of sync. It's out of sync. And there's a reason for that. And it's important to listen to that and to bring that to your conscious awareness so you can shift that.
I want to talk about how to do that, as well as how to unearth some of our self-limiting beliefs, because you talk about how our subconscious is doing something, but it could be actually undermining what our head thinks we should do. Is that correct?
So our subconscious mind is ever loving. It is loving us more than anyone or anything could ever love us, really. And what do I mean by that? It'll always give us exactly what it thinks we want. So when we have beliefs, like let's say an empowering belief, right? Like I can totally do this. I got this, right? I trust myself. I got this, right? Then that's a signal. That's an instruction to our unconscious mind, and it will help us to manifest that, right? We'll get the ideas. We'll get the motivation. We'll do what we need to do. If I have some limiting beliefs, like let's say about doing this conversation right now.
Yeah.
If I had a belief that sounded like I'm not good enough, then that also is an instruction that would be giving my unconscious mind, and my unconscious mind would be limiting me. It might be limiting me in a way that I might get sick that morning and not be able to do this interview. I might get the flu or something like this, right? Reject that, but sometimes that's what happens, right? Because it wants to give us what it thinks we want. So if I'm saying I'm not good enough, it'll give us that. It'll want us to stay safe.
Yeah.
Because that's the prime directive is run and preserve our body to keep us alive and safe. So, or maybe I'll show up to this meeting and all of a sudden I'll forget what I wanted to say, or I won't sound so clear, or something like that, right? I might mumble some gibberish, right? And that's not because our unconscious mind doesn't want us to succeed. It's just because there's a program, an unconscious program that at some point I would have given to myself, and if I wasn't conscious of that and shifted that, then it's going to come up. And that's why people see patterns in their life over and over again. Like maybe they'll lose weight and then they'll gain weight, and they'll lose weight and gain weight, or they'll have a relationship, lose a relationship, right? Or get a job, lose a job, get a job, right? Boom, bust, kind of with money. All that is just patterns that are because with each value, right? Like let's say kindness. There is a part of us that's moving towards what we want. Let's say moving towards having kindness. And there might be rejected if that's not for you, but there might be a part of us that's moving away from not having kindness in our life and the pain of that. And so if we're facing what we want, right, meaning that consciously and unconsciously we know what we want and we're feeling the motivation, it feels right, then we're moving towards that. If I'm moving away from not having, let's say, kindness in my life, then the moment I get far enough away from that pain where I have just enough amount of kindness, or I lose just enough amount of weight, or I gain just enough amount of money, or just the right relationship that I want, what happens, because I'm addicted to those emotions of not having kindness in my life, to whatever that is, that sadness or whatever that is, my loving unconscious mind, because of my addiction, is going to get me right back there. So I'm going to self-sabotage, and I'm going to create opportunities, not consciously, of course. Nobody wants to do this to themselves consciously. But we find ourselves back in that same place. That's because of those instructions that we've given, that program, right, that's related to that. So it's important to become conscious and release those ties, right, those emotional ties to those emotional negative emotions, right, those emotions that don't feel good, or to those thoughts that don't feel good. We want to release those so we can be so much more aligned, so much more congruent, so much more energized, moving towards what we want.
Given that these unconscious programs have so much influence over our lives, and you say it is easy to change them, how do we do that?
Okay. It's easy, first of all, when we want to change. Number one, we got to, and I start every technique that I do with a client, everything that I do, by asking permission from their unconscious mind to let that go. So that's number one. We gotta be willing and ready to let it go. And sometimes that actually involves having a certain amount of pain in our life. So the pain that we sometimes experience in certain areas of our life, like let's say a job loss or a relationship issue or whatever that might be, loss of money, that pain is there for us to become even more clear about what we want, so there's more momentum to change. Yeah, to get even more aligned.
Yeah, I guess we wouldn't know that something required changing if we weren't upset about it.
Correct. We don't know light until we experience darkness. We don't know warmth until we experience cold, right? So you gotta feel that to know the difference, to really have that momentum, that desire to change. So that's number one, is the desire to change. And then once you're clear about the desire to change, and you're clear about what it is that you want to change in alignment with those top values, then it's about becoming conscious of what those beliefs are. So you might just ask yourself a simple question like, what's the story that I'm telling myself about this? Like, let's say about relationships, right? Like, what's the story I'm telling myself? And you just tune in to the inner chatter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what are those thoughts that are coming up? What are the worries? What are the fears? What are the doubts? We all have that, right? What's the little chatter?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is just a perception. Remember that we're only conscious of a very small percentage, right? Our conscious mind just has very limited resources. So we want to kind of ask ourselves, okay, how is that story serving me? Probably not so well if we're not getting what we want. So becoming clear of that story and asking ourselves, what emotion am I feeling around that? That's really important, because that's our conscious and our subconscious talking.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that is. So it's opening those lines of communication, so we don't need to repress it anymore. We can just bring it to light, right? And the truth does set us free when we're able to see the truth. Okay, this is what I think.
Yeah.
It makes no logical sense, but yet there's a part of me that has some energy around that. That means that there's some program around that, right? Anything that doesn't feel good, it just means that there's a story.
Yeah.
That it's the not you, it's the not reality. It's just what we call the ego vanity structure, right? It's that part that thinks we should or could or not good enough or whatever that is, all those limiting beliefs. So the reason I said it's easy, and I want to kind of explain that a little bit more. Easy not in the sense of it doesn't require work, because it does require work, and I'll share with you what that work is. It requires consistent work, absolutely. It requires making the time and doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
But it's easy in the sense that there's a process that works every single time.
So what is the process?
Okay, so we've already talked about the first step, which is desire.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being very clear about what we deliberately want to create. So what that means is that we want to focus on what we actually do want and not on what we don't want. Because most of the time when we ask people, what do you want, right? They'll be like, well, I don't want this and I don't want to do this, and right? So we want to focus on what we do want, because otherwise we're giving energy to the problem. And our mind will always help us to see more problem, right? That's what it does. It gives us what we want.
And I think you use an example where if you tell someone not to picture something,
Oh, yeah.
how give us an example.
Yeah. So, Lisa, I do not want you to picture right now this, I don't know why this came up, but this giraffe, like right here, but like it's a shrunken giraffe, like maybe about this high, right? This beautiful yellow with polka dotted, giraffe right here, and it's jumping up and down. Yeah, and it's smiling at you with its big teeth, right? I don't want you to imagine that right now. And I don't want your viewers to imagine a giraffe looking at them right now, right? Maybe smiling at them.
You can't help but picture it.
That's right, because for your brain to process negatives, right? It cannot process negatives. For it to process what you don't want, you actually have to have a holographic image of what you do want. So the opposite of that. So if I say don't do that, your unconscious mind is actually hearing do it, because it does not process negative. So if I say I don't want to have debt in my life, my unconscious mind is actually hearing
Debt.
I want more debt. Please give me more opportunities to stay in debt. Yeah, and it'll give us that, because that's the instruction, and it loves us unconditionally. It'll give us what it thinks we want. So we got to make sure that the instructions are very, very positive and very specific, because if I say I don't, I want to be financially independent, let's say. And at the same time, there's a part of me that believes that having that will require me to not have time with my family, maybe if that's my perception, right? Reject that. But a lot of people have a belief that for them to progress in their career or to do what it is that they want, it's going to require much more of them. And they're not going to be able to give to their children or to their parents or to friends or to their health or whatever that might be.
Yeah.
So it's, again, that mixed energy. So we want to release those programs that say, for me to have wealth, I need to, right, give up something else in my life, because that's not true. So the process number one is to specify what it is that you want in a very positive way. So you write it exactly the way that you want it, in a very specific way. Secondly, it is to identify and shift any of those programs, those subconscious programs that are not aligned with that goal. So then people might say, well, how in the world do I know what my subconscious programs are? Because by definition, they're subconscious. How do I know, right?
Right, good question.
So what we want to do is kind of like we talked about, is just to kind of sit with what it is that we want and just notice what is that story that's coming up, that inner chatter, right? And to tune in, right? If there's something that says, I want this, but I believe that it's going to be hard. Or I want this, but I believe I'm not going to be successful because I wasn't successful the last time I tried. Or I want this, but I believe that it's going to cost me some pain in some other area of my life. Or I want this, but I don't believe I'm good enough, right? All of those worries and fears and doubts, which we all have, it's universal. I work with CEOs and key execs, as you know, and everybody has them, no matter how successful we are, we all have them.
Especially when we're pushing the envelope to grow, right, to the next thing. We're always going to, that requires by definition getting a little uncomfortable.
That's right, exactly. And keep in mind that the brain does not like change. So whenever we want to try to do something new, whether it's to change something in our work or in our personal life, whatever it might be, the brain, the mind is going, nope, not going there, right? Because it takes energy, it takes glucose. I don't want to do that, right? And the body says, I want to stay safe. I like certainty. I like safety. Let's not try that other thing because I don't know how that's going to work out. So let's not do it. And then that's when we get the ideas. Okay, I'll start the diet tomorrow. I'll start the exercise, whatever. And I'm not quite ready today. I'm too busy, or we get a stomach ache or whatever, right? Reject that. So that's when that happens. So we want to become very aligned, very congruent. So we say what we want, and then we just kind of sit with that, and we just notice what are all those things that are bubbling up, right? Or we might complete the phrase, I want this, but, right? Or I can't have it because. And you just notice what fills that sentence. It might make no logical sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's bringing it up to the conscious awareness. Now, how do we shift it? Well, the unconscious mind is very habitual. It works with repetition, right? That's why you learned the multiplication chart when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And that's right. So I imagine that if I asked you what's 10 times 10, you could probably, yes, exactly. I don't want to put you on the spot. You could do it in your head, or 4 times 4, right? And yet if I asked you right now, what's 23 times 23, you probably couldn't get that off the top of your mind. No, most people wouldn't. And that's because we got conditioned up to a certain number through repetition, right? Think of the number of times that you repeated that, or if you have children that that they repeated that and you supported them.
But we didn't do 13 times 13.
Exactly. So who knows? Like, okay, I got to think about that, right? So it's just by repetition. That's the way that the unconscious mind works, which is very powerful to know that. And that's where the ease comes in. That if you do these techniques with repetition, you will get the result.
Yeah.
Right? It's like driving. At first, it's very conscious, right? You got to think about it, and then you do it enough, it becomes an unconscious program. You just drive without really even remembering how to get to wherever you wanted to go. So what is that process? So we said, right, number 1, get the goal. Become conscious of what the beliefs are that are not serving you. Okay. And then you want to shift them. So how do you shift them? Well, the idea is that we don't just let go of beliefs. It's not like I'm saying, okay, I'm not going to believe this anymore. Goodbye, right? It doesn't work like that. Our mind needs to replace it with something else. Otherwise, there's like a void.
Oh.
Yeah. And our brain, being the very creative, amazing brain that it is, it'll fill up a story right away, some other false story. So we want to be deliberate about what that story is. And that's where those powerful anchor phrases, affirmations, those powerful things that we say to ourselves with emotion come in. Because if I believe that I'm not good enough, let's say to do something in my life, and I come up with a new, more empowering belief that I am, even though I might not really believe that yet, right? Consciously, I might not really believe that yet, but if we repeat that with emotion, where we actually say to ourselves, like, how will I know that I am good enough? Okay, I'm going to see this, and I'm going to do this, and it's going to feel so good. If as I'm repeating that over and over again, especially first thing in the morning and before I go to sleep at night, when my brain is more suggestible, it's more like a little kid, more like a sponge, right? There's less of that noise. No, you're not. It's just kind of like, it's accepting. So if I repeat to myself those anchor phrases, right? Like, I am good enough, right? Not I will be, but I am enough, right? I'm worthy of love. I'm fearless. I'm kind. I am all those things. And we say that with emotion, right? So it's not just from here, but we focus our attention in the area of our heart, and we focus on those good emotions, how it feels to be that. Then we're creating those neurological shifts and those shifts in our body. We're getting really good hormones just flowing into our body, like DHEA and dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin, and we're feeling really, really good. And that's when our body is now primed for a future event. That's when we're no longer focused on what we call the predictable past, and we're focused on what could be. What are some possibilities for me? Right? So we're literally disconnecting from those emotional addictions that we talked about and getting addicted to these good new emotions.
Yeah.
And it just takes repetition. So I think about what is a more empowering thing I can say to myself and feel, and then I repeat that over and over again with emotion, and I visualize myself. I vividly imagine myself feeling that, achieving what I want to achieve. And when I'm there in my mind, in my own body, looking through my own eyes, and I can see it and I can hear it and I can hear what I'm going to say to myself. I am feeling those emotions, and my brain is in that future reality. For our brain, it's just like 3D reality.
Wow.
Just the same. So we're neurologically changing the way that we perceive that in our brain. We're changing the hormones in our body and priming our body for a future event. And that's where we're able to access intuitive or intelligence from our heart that we cannot just access from the 40 bits per second. We're accessing a lot more. And that's how people sometimes get those ideas, sometimes when they're in the shower or when they're out for a walk or in nature, just feeling really good because they're much more coherent. There's that signal that I talked about because they're feeling really good. And when they feel good, guess what? The mind works more optimally. We're able to access ideas and thoughts and feelings that we couldn't otherwise access.
Yeah.
And it just takes time and effort, really. It really is simple to do. You just got to do it consistently.
So let's say you used the example of wanting to have beautiful connection with your children. You came up with that thought, you may have had to release limiting beliefs, and then you took action. So what is the role of that, and where does the action come into play in the whole framework?
Oh yeah, so the action is absolutely critical, but most people go straight to action. Right? Like for example, if they're in a career transition, I need a resume, I need the LinkedIn profile, right? I got to go network and apply. But you know what? Lots of people spend hours a day doing all the action, and they're still not getting the result.
Yeah.
Why? It's because they're not in alignment. There's some inner resistance that they're not conscious about. There's energy that's not serving them.
Yeah.
So what I would say is we want the action to be inspired. So when we, for example, visualize, and I've done this many times, where I have in the morning, one of the things, I have some anchor phrases that I say to myself as soon as I wake up and I feel them. And as I feel them, one of the things, is that I give unconditional love to my family, to my friends, to my clients, to everybody that I come into contact with.
Yeah.
And literally as I say that, like an image of a client will come up, or an image of my daughter or my husband or something like that, and I will just, my mind will go, okay, what will it take to give that, right, to feel that?
Yeah.
And then I'll get the idea, oh, tonight I can spend some time with her, right? So the how comes from the feeling, right? And then I'm much more likely to take that action. So I want to ask myself, what will it take? Well, maybe putting a little sticky note or a little reminder on Siri on my phone to go and do that, or because we are in our automatic kind of programs throughout the day. So I want a reminder until it becomes a habit. Right. I need reminders. I need some accountability, and then of course following through and actually taking the action. Because otherwise, I'm telling my unconscious mind, consciously it's important, but I'm not following through. So there's that misalignment, that mixed energy again, and there's that resistance. So we got to be accountable to what it is that we believe is most important to us and really honor that. Otherwise, if we're not honoring our own boundaries, how can we expect anybody else to? So I can teach you and your viewers a very simple technique that comes straight from the HeartMath Institute. It's called Quick Coherence. When we practice that multiple times a day, we're going to be more coherent, and then the answers will come more easily. So we can still set a goal. The goal might be to become clear on what it is that we want. That could be a goal. So our reticular activating system is going to help us to find that answer. But we're priming our body to feel good more of the time. And when we do that, our brain will help us to come up with the answers even more easily and much more quickly.
Yeah. Well, can we do that?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. So this technique, like I said, word by word comes from the HeartMath Institute, and they've done a lot of research on this. So I'm sharing with you something that's so profoundly simple. You could teach it to a 3-year-old, and yet it could transform your life if you do it consistently.
Okay.
So there are 2 steps. Step number 1 is to focus your attention in the area of the heart. So feel free to do this as we talk about it. Just focus your attention in the area of the heart. Some people like to put their hand here, or you can just imagine, whatever is easier for you. And I want you to just imagine that your breath is actually flowing in and out of your heart or chest area.
Okay.
Breathing a little slower and deeper than you usually do. That's right, and you can do this with your eyes closed or with your eyes open, whatever feels more comfortable to you. I do this while I'm driving, I do this at the dinner table, I do this while I'm in meetings. Just get into that nice, comfortable rhythm. At the beginning, sometimes it's helpful to imagine breathing to the count of 5 seconds and exhaling to the count of 5 seconds. Just getting into that's right, nice, comfortable rhythm for you.
Mm-hmm.
And as you continue to breathe, make a sincere attempt to experience a regenerative feeling, such as appreciation or care for someone or something in your life.
Okay.
So as a suggestion, maybe to focus on something or someone that you love, an accomplishment, a happy memory, or just a feeling of ease and joy. How do you feel?
Wonderful.
That's right. You just got a whole burst of DHEA, which is a really awesome, good feeling hormone into your body.
Yeah.
That makes you feel really good. And the more that you do that, you kind of overtake the cortisol that's in the body, because cortisol, stress hormone, can stay in the body, I believe, up to 16 hours.
Wow.
So when you do this technique, it just takes a few seconds, but you're actually changing your body hormonally to feel better. And when you're feeling better, there's a more coherent signal going up to your brain, and you're able to access more of your brain. It's called cortical facilitation. So doing that inner work of getting even more coherent is the very first step. And of course, getting more connected to what's important to us. Those two things I would say are absolutely first. And then the ideas of what do I want? What will that look like? That'll evolve.
Yeah.
Once you're in your heart and you know what's important to you, it'll come.
Well, Vera, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you, Lisa.
I've been speaking to Vera Kogan about the power of knowing what we want in life. The link to all of her resources is in the description box right below this video. And while you're there in the comment section, let me know what is a time you really knew what you wanted in life and you achieved it. Before you go, subscribe to join our community, and I look forward to seeing you soon for our next happiness adventure.